You've definitely heard about this book, the first and the best of all the strategies, the book that made leaders for more than 2,500 years. Napoleon, Abraham Lincoln, Dwight D. Eisenhower, Niccolo Machiavelli, even Alexander the Great himself was influenced by this book. Written by a man so feared, who made an entire army collapse by just playing a flute, the father of all strategies, Sun Tzu. I've read this book more than 5 times, and as a person who has read a fair amount of books on strategy, there were a lot of shocking things regarding this book. In this video we'll cover everything from the content of the book itself, and at the end of the video I share my tips on how to read this book effectively. You can use my experiences reading and studying it for 5 times and not make the mistakes I made, which were super time consuming. What I felt the need to talk about first is the thing that I absolutely love about Sun Tzu, and I believe it was the reason that made him so powerful and victorious, is his sense of rationality. He didn't like waging war. As ironic as it may sound, he has stated many times in his book that to shatter and destroy is not good. Chapter 3 verse 2. Hence to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. He didn't care about the glory that winning a brutal fight could get him. He only cared about getting the job done with the lowest casualties. And it's not just a matter of morality. He knew that ruining and plundering would hurt both the land that he was trying to conquer and his reputation among the people of those lands. He would also lose soldiers of his own. So why even do it? Chapter 12 verse 18. No ruler should put troops into the field merely to gratify his own spleen. No general should fight a battle simply out of pique. As a leader, we should always put the interests of our company or the people who trust us first and before our own emotions. Anger, frustration, fear, glory, even pity, giving in to them costs us a lot, and the powerful will always choose victory and the long-term effect over just a mere moment of pride. Chapter 8 verse 12. There are 5 dangerous faults that may affect the general. Recklessness, which leads to destruction; cowardness, which leads to capture; a nasty temper, which can be provoked by insults; a delicacy of honor that is sensitive to shame; over solicitude for his men, which exposes him to worry and trouble. Recklessness, haste, cowardness, fear, a nasty temper, anger, a delicacy of honor, pride, over solicitude for his men, attachment. He's not suggesting that you shouldn't feel those things. He's saying that they shouldn't affect your mentality and your decision making. You as a general and a leader are responsible for making decisions for other people, and it's best for everyone to not act upon them. Chapter 1 verse 1 to 3. Sun Tzu said, "The art of war is of vital importance to the state. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence it is a subject of inquiry that can on no account be neglected. The art of war, then, is governed by 5 constant factors, to be taken into account in one's deliberations when seeking to determine the conditions obtaining in the field." Sun Tzu was an avid advocate of knowing your circumstances and believed that the first step that every general and leader should take is to know every detail before planning anything. At the very start of the book, he talks about the essential 5 heads, the 5 factors that every general should be aware of. First, the moral law, people being loyal to their leader and their cause regardless of any danger. Second, heaven, night and day, heat or cold, different seasons. Third, earth, distance and the ground that you're fighting on. Fourth, the commander, having strictness, wisdom, and benevolence. And finally 5, the method and discipline, having ranking among officers, knowing the expenditure and the maintenance costs, those kind of things. And he says that if you truly know these 5 things, you can always forecast a victory or defeat. Chapter 1 verse 12 to 14. Therefore, in your deliberations, when seeking to determine the military conditions, let them be made on the basis of a comparison, in this wise. Which of the 2 sovereigns is imbued with the moral law? Which of the 2 generals has the most ability? With whom lie the advantages derived from heaven and earth? On which side is discipline more rigorously enforced? Which army is the stronger? On which side are officers and men more highly trained? In which army is there the greater constancy both in reward and punishment? By means of these 7 considerations, I can forecast victory or defeat. Whenever you hear the story of a nation or a company's downfall, it's mostly because of their leader being ignorant to one of these 5 heads, like 90% of the time. And it teaches us that the core of a strategy is knowing your cards. What do you have to play? When and where are you playing? And how are you gonna play? I was watching Alex Hormozi, great business guy, definitely check him out. And I was saying that when a company is struggling to grow, it's mostly because the founder or the CEO is negligent to the constraints of the business. They don't track the necessary data, the KPIs, the LTV, the churn. They don't hire A players. They're using a bad channel for getting leads. They don't have a strictness to create a disciplined atmosphere. And it's not just about war or business. In everything that you're trying to do, if you want to have the best results, you have to know the game that you're playing. It doesn't guarantee that you win, but you can avoid many losses. You know, this book was designed for generals. It wasn't designed to tell us how many people or the type of weaponry we need to win a war. Those things are great and are essential, but a great army with the best weapons can still lose with a bad general, and a small one can be victorious with a good leader. So there is a high emphasis on the person who's at the front, you essentially, and you better know the rules of leadership. Chapter 7 verse 28 to 37. Now soldier's spirit is keenest in the morning. By noonday it has begun to flag, and in the evening his mind is bent only to return to camp. A clever general, therefore, avoids an army when its spirit is keen, but attacks it when it's sluggish and inclined to return. This is the art of studying moods, disciplined and calm, to evade the appearance of disorder and hubbub amongst the enemy. This is the art of retaining self-possession. To be near the goal while the enemy is still far from it. To wait at ease while the enemy is toiling and struggling. To be well fed while the enemy is famished. This is that art of husbanding one's strength. To refrain from intercepting an enemy whose banners are in perfect order. To refrain from attacking an army drawn up in calm and confident array. This is that art of studying circumstances. It is a military axiom not to advance uphill against the enemy. Do not oppose him when he comes downhill. Do not pursue an enemy who stimulates flight. Do not attack soldiers whose temper is keen. Do not swallow a bait offered by the enemy. Do not interfere with an army that is returning home. When you surround an army, leave an outlet free. Do not press a desperate foe too hard. Such is the art of warfare. What's interesting is that most of these tactics and maneuvers just comes down to psychology and recognizing behavioral patterns. And if you can see these patterns both in your army and among the enemies, you can use that leverage to predict what the enemy wants to do and get your army to do what you want to do. The word leading essentially means getting others to listen to you and do what you want. So by observing behaviors and the response to them, you can understand what actions to take to make them want to be led by you, and you essentially become a better leader. Chapter 11 verse 22 to 24. Carefully study the well-being of your men and do not overtax them. Concentrate your energy and hoard your strength. Keep your army continually on the move and devise unfathomable plans. Throw your soldiers into positions whence there is no escape, and they will prefer death to flight. If they will face death, there is nothing that they may not achieve. Officers and men alike will put forth their uttermost strength. Soldiers, when in desperate straits, lose the sense of fear. If there is no place of refuge, they will stand firm. If they are in the heart of a hostile country, they will show a stubborn front. If there is no help for it, they will fight hard. You see, some of these verses may sound a bit amoral. Not immoral, amoral. But we have to take into account that he's literally talking about war. And I intentionally put this verse here to emphasize that in serious situations where the stakes are high, acting according to your emotions is so destructive. Sometimes you have to put 10 soldiers in danger to protect a 10,000 man army. You love those 10 people, you care for them, but if you don't make that sacrifice, the consequences will be much higher. You see, this book is filled with tactics and I cannot fit them all in one video. So if this video does well, I can make a more in-depth video breaking down each chapter. So make sure to like and subscribe for future videos. Chapter 13 verse 2 to 4. Hostile armies may face each other for years, striving for the victory which is decided in a single day. Thus being so, to remain in ignorance of the enemy's condition simply because one grudges the outlay of 100 ounces of silver in hours and emoluments is the height of inhumanity. One who acts thus is no leader of men, no present help to his sovereign, no master of victory. Thus, what enables the wise sovereign and the good general to strike and conquer and achieve things beyond the reach of ordinary men is foreknowledge. You know, we've talked about how crucial it is to know ourselves in the second chapter of this video, but it only gets us halfway through victory. The other half can be provided by knowing our opponent. You can always have the upper hand when you have information about the enemy's plan. But how can we get that information? Sun Tzu had a strong opinion on how important information is, especially outside information. He talks about it all throughout his book, and a large proportion of that is dedicated to the usage of spies. Chapter 13, verse 7 to 13. Hence the use of spies, of whom there are 5 classes: local spies, inward spies, converted spies, doomed spies, and surviving spies. When these 5 kinds of spies are all at work, none can discover the secret system. This is called divine manipulation of the threats. It is the sovereign's most precious faculty. Having local spies means employing the service of the inhabitants of a district. Having inward spies, making use of the officials of the enemy. Having converted spies, getting hold of the enemy's spies and using them for our own purpose. Having doomed spies, doing certain things openly for purposes of deception, and allowing our own spies to know of them and report them to the enemy. Surviving spies, finally, are those who bring back news from the enemy's camp. You know, I've read a lot of books that talk about deception and using spies, but the interesting thing about his stratagem was him cherishing the enemy's spies. He didn't suggest killing them. Unlike everyone else, instead he made them look like kings. He knew that if they turned to his side, he could have had the most authentic information with the best cover. This shows us again how important it is to not be influenced by emotions and make the best decision with the highest return. Chapter 13, verse 25. The end and aim of spying in all its 5 varieties is knowledge of the enemy, and this knowledge can be only derived in the first instance from the converted spies. Hence it is essential that the converted spy be treated with the utmost liberty. Okay, now that you've got a decent understanding of the book, let's talk about whether it's worth reading or not. It absolutely is. And the main reason for that, in my opinion, is it's too short. The first 70 pages are introductions and a sort of biography of the translator and Sun Tzu himself. The last 100 pages are commentaries explaining the context of the Chinese word and the history behind those words. I read them and I'm telling you, you don't have to. It doesn't change your reading experience and it doesn't provide any further context that you have to know to understand the stuff in the book. The main part has 13 chapters in only 64 pages, where half of the page is filled with the Chinese text. So you can absolutely read it in 2-3 days. I personally take my time when reading valuable books to absorb as much as I can. And for 64 pages, the return on this thing is so high. It doesn't have boring stories or unnecessary build-ups, just pure value. I'm looking forward to seeing your comments in the comment section. I answered them all, and I believe the thing that keeps us humans alive and a society working is exchanging ideas. So you can express your thoughts and see how other people view that in their perspective. My name is Saint Rakshani. Hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one. For now.